So this is hopefully what the bows are going to look like up there. Again, I haven't been up there. This is the most common recurve bow. You've got two limbs here that attach to a riser in the middle. They're big bolts right here, and they just screw in. When you're done with the bow, you de-string the bow. You take these limbs off of this riser, it folds up, and you put it in a nice spot. It's not damp, it's not too hot, it's not humid. You want it in a climate-controlled environment if you can. And these other things are pretty self-explanatory. I'll go over them. This is the lower limb. And the limbs are the part of the bow that give it the strength, and it's the part of the bow that takes the energy and stores it until you release the string. And then as soon as you release the string, all of that energy gets transmitted from the limb through the string and into the arrow. So you got the lower limb, upper limb. There's a notch. You can't really see it here, but when you get there, you'll see it. It's a groove that the string sits in at the top and at the bottom. There's a limb bolt. That's the bolt that keeps the limb on there. And there's a little pocket or channel that this goes in so that this piece doesn't just kind of flip up or down. The grip is right here. The arrow rest, it's what the arrow rests on. It's right here. And the sight window. So this is what you'd see as you're pulling the string back. This is the view that you would have. You'd pull the string back here and you'd be looking right through this little cutout area right there. Now, there are a couple other things that you need to know the worksheet asks for. The first thing is the cast. So the cast of a bow is what the length, the maximum length that it could force an arrow to travel. So if I pull the string back as far as I can and I let it go, how many yards, how many feet is that going to go? The answer to that is what the cast of the bow is. A stronger bow is going to make the arrow go farther. A weaker bow is going to make the arrow go not quite so far. Now, the draw weight. Recurve bows are classified by their draw weight. Now, what that means is if I was to take the bow, draw it back 28 inches, which is what the average person's arm length is. I pull this back 28 inches. How much force do I have to exert to pull that back? Now, as we heard in the law, you have to have a bow that is 40 pounds or more. Now, you guys aren't going to be able to do a 40-pound bow because that's a lot of energy. What you'd be having to do with one hand, essentially what that means is you'd have to take one hand and lift up like this 40 pounds and then hold it. After you've lifted it, you're going to have to hold it and keep it straight without jittering around like this, and it's a lot of work. So we're going to be shooting bows that are about 20-25 pounds. You'll easily be able to pull them back, hold them tight, and then release. And you should be able to hit the target with that, all right? So that's what cast is, draw weight, brace or string height. The distance between the grip and the string. So the distance between this point and this point, right here, actually, right here. This point to this point. That is called the string height or brace. Aiming is done through here. You look down through the sight window, down the arrow's sitting there like this, and you let it go. The spine of an arrow we talked about before, that's the stiffness of the shaft. And mechanical release we talked about, showed you a picture of before. That's something that clips onto the string, and so that you don't have to use your fingers, and you pull it back and then you touch a button and it releases the string. And then there's two types of bows, or two classifications of archery that happen outside of hunting. So the first is what's called freestyle, and you'll see that in the video at the end. In addition to the bow looking like this, you've got things that stick off the front and stick off the side. Those are dampers. And what they do is they attempt to lessen the overexertion and excess energy of the bow and channel all of the energy, usable energy, into the arrow so that it goes straight and true. That's freestyle. Bare bow would be what this is. So a bare bow means you cannot use anything, any dampers, you can't use any sights. Sometimes they have little pins that stick off here because you actually have to aim, and you guys will find this out. If you're shooting 50 yards, you're going to have to aim. Let's say that this is the bullseye right here, right? If that's the bullseye and you're shooting 50 yards, you're going to have to actually aim up in, say, this area. So you're going to, because the arrow is going to drop a little bit. Now, what they do is they have pins that are preset at like 50 yards, 30 yards, 20 yards, and you estimate what the length of your shot is, and then you pick the pin that's closest to it, and you just put that pin that's sticking out on the target. So you don't have to estimate, oh, okay, it's 50 yards, I need to be 8 inches above where I think I need to be. All you have to do is say, okay, it's 50 yards, I'm going to put the 50-yard pin right where I want it, and then the shot will go straight and true. All right, so that's bare bow and freestyle. Requirement 3C, don't worry about, don't need to do. Obedience. Explain the importance of obedience. It should go without saying, you guys are old enough to understand that we're dealing with bows, arrows that can hurt people, and they will hurt people. They don't care whether you made a mistake or you're just joking or you didn't understand the rule. All they know is they're going to do what physics, the laws of physics, tell it to do. And the bottom line is you need to obey the range rules. You need to know the range rules. You need to know what three whistles mean. You need to know what 2 whistles mean. You need to know what 1 whistle means. And you need to obey your leaders. You need to obey the range instructor. You need to obey the moderator. You need to listen and pay attention. Nobody wants to get hurt. Nobody wants to make a trip to the hospital. And nobody wants to be the person who actually hurts someone. All right? So these are real arrows, they're real bows, and it's real harm and real blood and guts. So pay attention to what you're doing, and nobody will get hurt, and we'll all have a good time, all right? So that's importance of obedience, rules, and all the other one. Difference between an end and a round. So a round is composed of several ends. An end would be a shot or a grouping of 5 arrows typically. And you would have, say, 3 ends, so that'd be 15 arrows or 15 shots, 15 attempts at that round. That's a pretty easy one. Okay, scoring and what the targets look like for the various classifications. Field archery, and 3D archery, and then target archery, right? So let's advance to one more and we'll show you some pictures. I don't want to spend too much time on there. We've already spent a whole bunch of time already, and time is something that all of us cherish. So did we advance? So in addition to actually showing you what the target looks like, it also has the scoring. So you guys can use this photo. The inner, pretty self-explanatory. The inner circle here is 10. The outer circle is also 10, but if there was a tie, the one that's closest to the center obviously wins, right? All right, so this is target right here. Next slide. The next slide is going to be, this is field. So, and this is how you score it right here. Field targets are black and white. And then the next one is going to be 3D archery. And that looks like this. So 3D archery is actually foam or some kind of fiberglass dummy animal. In this case, it's a deer. And usually you've got an area that's kind of kidney or pear-shaped. And this represents internal organs, and you get more points for hitting various internal organs. So. Next one. And that's just another one. All right, so let's go again. All right, so this may be a little bit hard to see, so I'm going to explain it a little bit. This is a blue and white indoor target. The center is 5 points, and if there was a tie, the one in the X, the very center, would win. The next ring is 4 points, the next ring is 3 points, the next ring is 2 points, and the ring after that is 1 point. So this is a blue and white indoor target. All right, so next one. All right, so these are the 10 steps. You guys, this feedback is not commonly used in the steps. These steps right here are the 10 steps that you should write down. The first is your stance. You want to straddle. You're going to straddle the line, the shooting line. The next is the knock. You're going to actually take your arrow and put it into the string. The end of the arrow, the knock end of the arrow, you're going to put it in the string, and you're going to take the other end and put it on the arrow rest. Then you're going to hook and grip. You're going to take your fingers, your 3 fingers, you're going to hook them around the string, and then the arrow you're going to put between your index finger and your middle finger. And then you're going to set your posture. You're going to raise the bow, and then you're going to draw to load. You're going to anchor, and then what they call transfer to hold. And all of this is difficult to see unless you're actually in person. So don't get too worried about it. Just know that you've got to write these down in your merit badge. That was Daniel making some noise for us. He's a little bit bored, so we're almost at the end though. All right, so those are your 10 steps. And we went over proper care and storage of the bow. So you want to break the bow down. You take out the limb bolts, and if you're not going to do that, if you're going to do it for the day, you're storing it for the day, there are holders that we store the bows in, and they basically hang on the limb part, where the limb meets the riser. You want to keep the bows. You don't want to rest them on their tips, and you don't want to put them in a humid environment or an environment excessively cold or excessively hot. All right, so 10 steps of good shooting, and the rest of what's on the merit badge worksheet we have to do at the range. I'm going to get into a little bit of the elimination, the Olympic archery elimination, and we'll play you a video while I'm explaining that. All right.